Let's begin with the foundations. Welcome to another lecture. Today we examine the Shards, a teen thriller television series adapted from Bret Easton Ellis's semi-autobiographical novel and released on FX and FX on Hulu. I am Alexei. We will try to be precise and only mildly paranoid, which is thematically appropriate.
Hi everyone, I'm Priyanka. I assist Professor Alexei. I'm excited to talk about a show that asks us to question what we see and what we think we remember.
To frame our discussion, in lay terms, The Shards is a glossy teen thriller set in Los Angeles in 1981. We follow a 17-year-old Bret Easton Ellis during his senior year at the elite Buckley Preparatory School. A serial killer called the Trawler haunts the city, and a charismatic new student, Robert Mallory, unsettles the social fabric. Essentially, it is sunlit privilege with a long shadow creeping across it. In more technical terms, the series is an adaptation of a semi-autobiographical novel and deliberately blends memoiristic gestures with fiction. The narrative position is constrained to a dramatized teenage Bret. Therefore, perception, rumor, and projection are not side effects, but structural devices. The genre mechanics are thriller, escalating threat, ambiguity around identity, red herrings. Yet these are braided with psychological themes of adolescence, self-image, and moral ambiguity specific to early 1980s Los Angeles.
So if we connect that to something less technical, we could say the show uses fear to make us feel what Bret thinks he sees, and then it asks whether he's actually seeing it. The period detail is not just set dressing. It limits communication channels, and gossip and uncertainty travel differently without phones and social media.
Moving forward, why does this matter now? We live amid a durable fascination with psychological thrillers and hybrid storytelling that mixes life and invention. Audiences enjoy the interpretive labor of deciding which details to trust. It is crucial to understand that the semi-autobiographical label complicates expectations. Some viewers anticipate stable truth claims, but instead they receive a design of ambiguity. In simpler terms, it invites us to read with a pencil rather than a highlighter.
And historically, we sometimes treat autobiography as courtroom testimony. When fiction enters the room, people may feel misled. But here, the blend is the point. The format asks us to test memories the way we would test a hypothesis.
Let's start with the history. The Shards was created by Ryan Murphy and Bret Easton Ellis and premiered in August 2026 on FX and FX on Hulu. The setting is Los Angeles in 1981. The Buckley School milieu contrasts safety and status with a city on edge under the trawler's threat. Development began in April 2023 when Ellis worked with HBO. In June 2023, he indicated Luca Guadagnino would direct. By January 2025, after a director shift to Christopher Borgli, creative differences led the project to leave HBO. Ryan Murphy moved to revive it, and by May 2025, FX announced development with Max Winkler directing, and 20th Television producing alongside Ryan Murphy Television. FX greenlit the series in July 2025, with Igby Rigney as Bret, Homer Gear as Robert Mallory, and Graham Campbell as Tom Wright. Hayes Warner joined in August 2025, followed by Wes Bentley, Evan Rachel Wood, and Jordan Roth in October 2025. Principal photography ran from November 2025 to March 2026. Owen Painter's casting was reported in April 2026, and FX set the premiere for August 2026 in June 2026. In July 2026, the music team was announced: Troye Sivan, Leland, Oscar Goras, and Hayes Warner. That is the operational spine.
A tiny footnote. The surname for Debbie and her family appears in sources as Schaefer and Schaffer. Pre-release materials often disagree like this, and the on-screen credits at Premiere typically settle it. It is a reminder that paratexts are noisy data.
Before we get to the complexities, a quick personal note. I spend much of my life with students on the cusp of adulthood. Stories about adolescence resonate because identity is under construction, perception is elastic, and small rumors can feel like theorems. The Shards captures that volatility. It reminds us that narrative is how we stabilize chaos, or sometimes how we aestheticize it. This logically leads us to three questions we should interrogate. First, how does the show actually balance autobiography and fiction? Second, what if the HBO pathway had persisted? How might tone and reception have shifted? Third, given the mixed critical response, what does that tell us about present-day expectations and open research questions?
Professor Alexei, may I ask, how does the show balance autobiography and fiction?
It's important to understand that the balance is not a 50-50 mixture, but an ambiguity engine. We observe a character literally named Bret Easton Ellis, yet the episodes are structured as a stylized reconstruction of youth. The arrival of Robert Mallory coincides with the trawler's escalating pattern. This correlation invites projection. The camera grammar and performance choices often restrict us to Bret's subjectivity. We lean into rumor, incomplete information, and the distortions of desire. Because Ellis is a co-creator, the adaptation legitimizes its own uncertainty. It announces that memory is a participant rather than a witness. In simpler terms, the show uses the author's name as a variable. The equations it solves depend on how much weight we give to that variable.
Professor, could you clarify how this impacts audience perception?
Audiences become hypothesis testers. Each beat invites two simultaneous readings. Either Bret is a reliable reporter of menace, or he is a teenage fabulist overlaying fear and attraction onto a new classmate. The trawler functions as both external plot and internal metaphor. Thus, viewers oscillate between empathy and skepticism. Practically, this produces what media scholars call active spectatorship. We fill gaps and construct causal chains from partial signals. When the paratext says semi-autobiographical, some watchers search for documentary truth, others relax into genre. The show's balance succeeds to the extent that it keeps both constituencies engaged without foreclosing either interpretation.
Professor, what might have been different if HBO had kept the project?
Speaking of counterfactuals, we must label this as informed speculation. Under HBO, with Luca Guadagnino initially attached, one might expect a more languorous, sensorial approach. Longer takes, an emphasis on tactile detail and erotic unease, perhaps fewer episodes with a filmic cadence. With Christopher Borgli in the mix at a later phase, we might have seen more offbeat satire of media and self-mythology. By contrast, the FX version under Ryan Murphy's aegis leans into glossy pulp, a brisker rhythm, and a tonal palette that accommodates both thriller suspense and heightened teen melodrama. Distribution matters too. FX plus FX on Hulu encourages weekly discourse with quick streaming access. HBO's platform dynamics might have framed it differently in the prestige conversation. Reception could have shifted, but we can only map likelihoods, not outcomes.
Professor Alexei, would the casting have influenced the narrative?
Indeed, star images are interpretive shortcuts. Jacob Elordi was reported in talks in 2023. Had he joined, his public persona might have reweighted how viewers read charisma and threat, especially around a character like Robert Mallory or even Bret. With Igby Rigney anchoring Bret, we get a more open text for projection rather than a star text dictating valence. Casting can shift camera allegiance, marketing tone, and the ratio of romance to dread in the audience's expectations. It does not change the skeleton of events. It changes the chemistry of how we metabolize them.
Professor, why do you think the series received mixed reviews?
Turning to reception, on Rotten Tomatoes, 53% of 38 critics were positive, with an average of 6.4 out of 10. The consensus reads that the Murphy and Ellis combination yields obtuse style with mildly entertaining substance. Metacritic assigns 57 out of 100 from 22 reviews. We can infer two forces in tension. First, style is a feature, not a bug. The series favors mood, period texture, and performance affect. Second, some critics sought tighter narrative causality and clearer thematic payoff. Expectation management is relevant. The marquee names prime viewers for either subversive prestige or maximalist melodrama. Living between those poles can feel indecisive to some and alluring to others. In short, the show's ambiguity and polish are both its selling point and its liability.
Professor, is there an area needing further research?
Yes, music and affect. The involvement of Troye Sivan, Leland, Oscar Goeres, and Hayes Warner suggests a deliberate strategy to bridge contemporary pop sensibility with early 1980s mood. We could design an experiment, isolate scenes with alternative scoring and measure recall, perceived tension and character empathy. Pair that with session-level streaming analytics to see where viewers pause or continue. Additionally, Murphy has discussed plans for at least 3 seasons, so it is possible that Season 1 is architected as Act 1 of a larger arc. Reception may recalibrate if subsequent seasons recontextualize ambiguity. In this context, the open question is how sonic identity and long-form structure interact to sustain suspense without exhausting goodwill. To summarize, The Shards is a semi-autobiographical teen thriller set in 1981 Los Angeles. A young Bret Easton Ellis navigates privilege, desire, and a city haunted by the trawler. We examine 3 questions: how the adaptation operationalizes ambiguity between life and fiction, what might have changed under an HBO trajectory, and why critics split on style versus substance, while leaving fertile ground for study, especially music's role in narrative mood. If you wish to read further, consider exploring how scoring and sound design steer audience inference in serialized television.
Thank you, Professor, and thanks to everyone listening. We hope this helped you watch with a pencil, not just a highlighter. Take care.